Hello. We are celebrating International Women's Day. International Women's Day is March 8th every year, and this year's theme is Inspire Inclusion. And so this year, instead of celebrating International Women's Day on one day, I've decided to stretch it out from March 8th to April 8th and interview a different woman every day. And so today I'm interviewing Ekaterina. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, this is so exciting to be here and especially to celebrate the International Women's Day with you in this form. I'm Ekaterina. I live in Stockholm, Sweden. I work as a product leader at Spotify and I have experience from a bunch of companies in the industry, but I also get energy and get inspired by mentoring people and advising to startups and scale-ups.
Amazing. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. So Katarina and I know each other because we worked together at Klarna. When I moved to Sweden in 2017, she was sort of my introduction to all things Klarna, and we worked together. And as I often do, I picked up a friend and said, I'll just keep the friend even after I left Klarna. So we've been friends and have spent some time together, have done some coaching and some really thinking about how product works together. And so she's someone that I value her opinion, and I think we have a good relationship back and forth. So
This goes definitely both ways.
awesome. So, Katarina, tell me and those who are watching a little bit about your personal journey and how you ended up where you are today.
I think this is one of those questions where we could have spent evenings and evenings and the whole month on that. But I think my journey, if I think where I am now, comes a lot from a few things. I studied engineering at school, and then I got very interested by also the customer side, and I started in customer care in a telecom company. But then I think what one of my strengths is curiosity, and also I love talking to people. And I think those two, together with my ability to think in systems and having some technical background, and maybe that giving me the foundation, led me first exploring more about product management when it was still in that organization called product development.
Right.
And then one thing led to another, and I was also open to take a bit of risk. And we tried running agile, which was very, for those who are in the industry, this is how many companies now run product development, but that was something new for the company back then. And I worked with mobile apps. And then it also at the right point, maybe hearing the feedback and asking for feedback and asking for advice and really reflecting also helped me to shape the journey. I took a lateral move to Klarna, where I joined the credit risk domain, where I worked a lot with data and the backend systems after having come from upside. But then after that, I was curious to explore a bit more other things. So I think one thing led to another. But if I look at the red thread, it was a lot about curiosity and being open to new things.
Yeah.
It was also at times trusting myself that I can do that when I went from working with mobile apps to backend. And then also at some point, I left from a bigger company to a scale up and I started a new product line there. And all along the way, maybe I didn't have all the answers, but I trusted that I'll figure that out. But I
Right.
also trusted that I have people around me that can give me feedback and support me. So I think those things, one thing led to another, and this is how I ended up here.
Yeah. Super interesting. Do you think there's anything special or unique for you around being kind of a more of a technical product manager, somebody who does, platforms or backend, or I mean, you've done a lot of different things, but that's really a lot, if I'm not wrong, where your specialty is. And
Yeah.
so do you think there's anything that makes that unique for you, or that you need specially for that?
I think what makes it unique is also the fact that I'm very focused on the customer experience and how I connect the complexity and working with technical product management, but also having business priorities and customer priority in mind. And also what makes it unique is how I think one can argue that some technologies might be very heavy and slow moving, but also keeping an eye on what's happening. And I think that's where my curiosity comes at hand. So I think that combination is more unique to me. But I think if I look across my peers, across people who inspire me and my friends and people with whom I work, I don't think it's something that people cannot achieve. I think it's absolutely one can build the same knowledge.
Right.
However, it works for me because of my personality. I wouldn't say that this is the recipe for success. I would rather say, hear it out. I think this is the mix, the recipe that works for me, but find your recipe for what works for you and what makes you excited, because that also is an important component that I get very, very excited about what I work with. I get super interested and I really get motivated by that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I think there's there's sometimes some rumblings in the industry that like technical product management isn't product management if you don't really touch the customer. You're not building user experiences. And I know you and I both strongly disagree. So that's part of why I wanted to ask about that, because I think there is a little bit of noise out there around that.
I think this is an interesting, yeah, I guess also your audience is much wider than only product management.
Yes.
But I think the interesting aspect here is what you say, that people in the industry say this thing or that thing. And I think this is maybe one aspect that is very important, that you have reflection points and you assess and you grow and you challenge yourself. But the fact that someone says that technical product management is not a thing, it doesn't mean that it's not a thing. You just need to find the way that you still, deliver value to the customer, you deliver value to the company, and you deliver value to yourself. So I think this is also one of those things when what you asked about this journey and the technical aspect. I think the foundation of trusting myself that I'll figure it out, thanks to my curiosity and work ethics, maybe that what makes me more reassured that some industry discussions might not be as relevant for my specific context.
Right. Well, and I think what you said is really interesting. Like, this is for a broader audience. And so for me, this would be similar as to someone who maybe does art and someone else from the outside says that's not art. And they're like, it is. And so you have like opinion version, these opinions coming in, but your version of something is like, no, this is my offering. Right. And so I think it's similar, for those who are kind of outside of this world, like there's always opinions. So it's sort of saying, I'm not going to be led around by the opinion. I'm going to decide what's the right fit for me.
100%. And this is what also interesting that your reference to art. I think modern art museums all over the world have proven that many different things can be an art and can be considered such and can be paid millions for that, as well as, now with the all digital art as well.
Yeah.
The
totally.
interesting aspect there is, when do you become stubborn for the stubbornness sake, and where do you actually get the feedback in and you see that you deliver value and this is something motivating? So this is evergreen question. When do you pivot, when you persevere? And this is also something that everyone needs to find for themselves. And I'm also curious from your side, I think you also made so many pivots. When do you know when do you need to pivot and when do you need to persevere?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I think with you, and just like you, curiosity is the thing that is the driver, and challenges. Like, if there's something to continue to learn, I would rather learn it in the context where I already have some comfort, right? And say, okay, have I learned everything I want to learn in this space? And has it run its course, right? And when it does, then I'm generally like, okay, what else could I do, either in this space or in a new space, right? And so, but curiosity is the leader, right? I'm like, ooh, that's fascinating. I want to chase that. I mean, I've said to many people, the best advice I was ever given is like, as a woman, don't follow a prescriptive career ladder. Chase what you're excited about, and titles and money and all of the things will come because you will show up in a really excited, passionate way. And I've done that a lot of times. But someone else might look at my situation and say, well, you took a weird backward step there. And I'm like, maybe, but I was really interested in that thing.
Yeah.
So I did it. But yeah. Yeah, for
No,
sure.
absolutely. And I think this is also the curious aspect of that. There is so much judgment, and now also, as we discussed, in the industry, or maybe in the family, or maybe in the group of friends, everyone is doing something, but maybe you feel that this is not the right path for you. So I think there is also this aspect of having trust in yourself, and I come back to that a lot, that what you also mentioned, what by others might be considered as a step back, in fact is a really big step forward for another person. So I
Yeah.
would also come back to this thought that prejudices and existing frameworks that around every single person do not need to predefine the path for that person. And this is also comes back to the inclusion um, and personal growth.
Yeah, totally. And I think that there are so many, I think that's a really good point. There are so many ways that people show up, and we have to have some space for to say, okay,
Mm,
what do you have to bring into this, whatever this is, whether it's a technical product or it's, what art or taking care of children, whatever it is, like what
yeah,
are you bringing in that is unique to you, and can, there must be room for it. One of the reasons I'm doing this specifically, talking to different women, is I don't think women are very one note. I think we're so diverse and so different, but there's this
yeah,
concept out there of like women behave this way or women will do this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're over half the population. Of course, we don't all do the same thing. And so
yeah,
that's important for me from an inclusion perspective to have a conversation about like, what do you want? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to be, right, in the world? So,
yeah.
yeah.
But maybe that's an interesting question as well, that is there anything practical that you and I and those who are watching this video can do to create that space for inclusivity? And maybe do you have any tips? How can we be better towards each other to create this space for others?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things, and maybe some of this comes with age, but I just find, goes back to curiosity. I find humans fascinating, right?
Mm,
Just in general. And
yeah,
so when someone tells me something, I tend to not be astonished and shocked and, oh, I can't believe you think that, right? I'm more like, all right, tell me more about that. I'm curious. I've never thought about it that way. So you tell me.
yeah,
And I think when we need to make room to include other viewpoints, other opinions, other opportunities, you really just have to be able to look at the situation and say, tell me more, right? Which is the
yeah,
ultimate coach question, right? Like as a coach, I must say, tell me more 15 times a week, right? Say more about, but it's ultimately me saying, come closer. Let's figure out this thing together, right? And let's make some
yeah,
space for you. So what about you? Do you have things that you think make room for including others?
yeah. I think the question, the angle of being curious and actually asking follow-up question,
Yeah.
and that is very important for me. So I can resonate with that a lot. I also come back a bit to being also kind to oneself, that we still grow up with a lot of prejudices, and it's very hard from one day to another say, oh, now I'm so inclusive, I never judge anyone. No, we still create some kind of mental frameworks to deal with so much complexity around. So maybe another thing that I come back to is, this immediate reaction when you hear something, maybe giving myself a moment and saying, well, that's okay that I thought that, but now I can learn more about it, and maybe it will confirm my initial impression,
Yeah.
or maybe it will give me so much more to understand, to learn about the person. And I think that kind of mm, giving moment of kindness towards yourself and not expecting yourself to change and accept everyone from the get-go,
Right.
that would be my practical
I love that.
tip if anyone wanted to try that.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that idea because I think that also, that ability to offer yourself that little nugget of compassion is a huge foundational builder for trusting yourself.
Mm,
Because when you need to say, "Ooh, am I trustworthy with this decision?" that starts from a place of, okay, hang on. What is the decision? What do I know? What do I not know? And there is an element, you need this real self-compassion in order to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think what you just described, and I don't think it's hard to give others compassion and space if we don't give ourselves compassion and space, right?
100%.
Yeah. I think our
I
lives
think
are so tight and so booked and so busy that sometimes we just need to like, hold on, I need to think, right?
absolutely. And I think it's also very hard to be kind towards others if you are not kind towards yourself. So if you don't demonstrate something that you want to demonstrate towards others, but then you ignore yourself, it creates such a weird mental situation. So I also think it's so important to start with oneself and then practice that kind of, as you said, compassion and reflection and inclusion of yourself, right? Creating that space for yourself. So I think
Totally.
that also extremely important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay, so one more question. If you were going to give younger Ekaterina some advice,
Yeah.
if you from the place you're in now, if you were looking back and able to tell yourself something that
Yeah.
maybe would be beneficial to some of the younger women that are listening to this, what advice would you give yourself? What would you tell her?
Trust yourself. I think that also comes back a lot that one way or another things will work themselves out.
Right.
So I think trust yourself and then everything else will come.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that because I think I think when I think about my younger self, I was so like, what am I doing? What are my options? What will happen? I was always thinking about what would happen. And the truth is,
Yeah.
live your life in the moment because things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Like,
100%.
yeah, but I think trusting yourself is such a big, if you can learn how to do that, then you won't feel like you can be led the wrong way because you will have a center point, right? To come back
Yeah.
to, okay, what do I want here? What's the right thing for me? Yeah, I love that. It's good.
What would be your advice to your
Yeah,
younger self?
good question. I think I would like to go back and tell her like, you like you will not remember working 60, 70-hour weeks. You will remember missing out on things that you didn't say yes to because you worked 60 to 70-hour weeks. So take it easy. Ease up a bit, right? And I don't like I worked hard. I love working. I love my career, right? I was really driven that way.
Yeah.
But there are things that, man, I should have been like, I should have had some boundaries, right? And said, no, I think someone else should do this. And I'm going to say no, and I'm going to go with my friends to do this instead, right? I, I wish I had, I was a really tightly wound young person. I wish that I could have unwound her just a little bit and been like, calm down a tiny bit. So that's what I think about when I think about that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great advice as well. I'll when I meet younger people, I'll also take on into account.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Did anything else you wanted to share before we finish this interview?
No, thank you so much for taking the time and making those interviews. I'm looking forward to see other interviews and see what those inspiring women have to say.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm excited to bring this out so everybody can see just a touch of life for different people. Anyone who's watching this, if you would like to donate something to the Malala Fund, the fund itself focuses on educating women and girls, both women and girls in areas where they have traditionally not had good education, but also making place for STEM and other types of education and training for women and girls. So that's the WQR code. You'll see it in the corner. And that's the thing that we are donating to during this the course of this month of International Women's Month. So, and day. So thank you, Katerina. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
All right.